And I generally prefer that y'all usually like when I talk as little as you like. So I think you've got about 17 amendments in front of you. Many of these are housekeeping items, issues we've been encountering since the 2017 last overhaul of the zoning ordinance. Some of these were oversights from the 2000 to the 2017 that we need to add back in. But I'll be glad to answer any specific questions you may have about any of the proposed amendments.
I have a question in Article 2, number 1. Define for me auto broker.
Auto broker is a business that just simply locates cars for a purchaser. There's no inventory on the premises.
So maybe someone sitting in front of a
Computer.
laptop or a computer just working.
We have
There's
a
no
number.
physical presence.
That's
of cars.
correct. We have a number of those establishments that we've approved for business licenses, but we don't have a specific category. We've been including them as something as like miscellaneous retail or miscellaneous office services. So this creates a category that identifies them. It also is recognized, I think, by the NAICS. So we recognize that, and that's one of the reasons we want to create this category. It helps us internally when people come to present this. We have other planning staff members that may not be aware of what do we categorize the last one as. So this
Right.
brings consistency, and this is kind of an emerging type of business in our area.
And then my other question in Article 4, the difference between base/maximum density and just changing it to maximum density, why would you take base out?
Base creates a false connotation in some respects. Some people come in and think they're guaranteed this number no matter what the conditions are on the property.
Right.
They don't look at things like streams, and as you know, the way developable property is right now, if it was good, it's already been built on.
Right.
And so we have a lot of people come in, well, by golly, I can get 4 units an acre, it says so right here. What we're saying is that's now not gonna be a base, it's gonna be a maximum. You can get what the land will yield, because you gotta consider your infrastructure you gotta put in is gonna make a determination of how many lots you can yield, but you cannot go over a certain number. And we ran the numbers, we looked at some different things. We looked at, we take this all together and just let, the land with all the other infrastructure possibilities, limitations, but that was going to create a lot more density than what we had with the way we had it.
Right.
So just by saying, that's why removing base out of it, it takes the notion out that they're guaranteed this number no matter what.
Okay. Questions, council?
Yes.
Yes.
Article 3, Section 2. What's the difference there? I was trying to see how you were changing that and why we were changing that.
The section 3-13 on the child care. Right now, our home occupation section of the zoning ordinance addresses a variety of types of things you can do in your home, and there's a conflict. We have another section of that Article 3 that talks about child care day services in your residence that require a public hearing either through the Board of Zoning Appeals or the Planning Commission, depending on your zoning. The home occupation rule is a conflict. It looks like it's an administrative approval that can be allowed as a use outright if they meet other conditions, when in fact we adopted an ordinance subsequent to that that says, no, you have to go through this other process. So this cleans up that ambiguity.
And then Article 7, it talked about the parking, one parking space for over 300 feet of impervious surface, but I didn't know which that applied to.
That really started back when Southtown did their overflow lot several years ago. We came up with this calculation for their inventory lot. And then Newnan Nissan, when they built their inventory lot, we applied this same formula. Not too long ago, there was a dealership that was contemplating coming to Newnan, and they also had an overflow lot. So instead of going back to what we had on site plans, we said, let's create this in the parking standards, because this is becoming more and more of an issue as different dealerships come to our community.
Okay,
All right.
Yes, sir.
that's all my questions.
Any questions from anyone else?
One more, sir.
Yes, Mr. Alexander.
Article 3, section number 1, the last sentence, remove subsection number 2, which limits a development over 20 acres to building 30% as townhouses.
We think the market should determine what that should be, based on conversations we've had with developers and some council members. We think that's something that the market is a market-driven product, and we see that as a limitation that we don't necessarily need to see, because we've also incorporated some other things with townhouses. We're looking at architectural requirements. You'll find in there that we also are beefing that up a little bit by making a requirement that no two facades can be alike. So we think that the market determined that.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
We also have people who are dividing property to get under that 20, and they have 19 acres and build townhouses and then use the other piece for an additional townhouse.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, this is a public hearing on this issue. Opportunity for the public to come forward. Anyone, please? Seeing no one move, I'm going to close the public hearing and ask for a motion on this.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second, we adopt the ordinance as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much. The next item is information only, rezoning request by John Edwards on behalf of Edwards 6 LLC for 2.15 acres located on Summerlin Boulevard from OI1 Low Density Office and Institutional District to CCS Community Shopping Center District for the purpose of constructing a restaurant. This is sent on to the Planning Commission, information only to us tonight, no action needed. The next item on the agenda is consider the indemnification and hold harmless agreement between the Georgia Department of Transportation and the City of Newnan to move forward with Phase D of the Newnan Link project. Have this before you this evening. Any questions regarding this hold harmless agreement?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and second to adopt as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next is a contract award consideration for the design builder of park facilities at C.J. Smith Park and Pickett Field. This was not discussed, but mentioned earlier. You have this before you.
I have a question.
Yes.
Will this just be C.J. Smith Park, or are we still going to handle the Farmer Street Cemetery separately?
Well, what we will do, obviously, this contract is for C.J. Smith and Pickett. Okay, but as far as how we coordinate Farmer Street Cemetery is something we want to, there's a linkage between the two. I don't imagine this contract is a design contract or a pricing contract for that particular park. But during that exercise, there will be the review to determine how they work together, how the connectivity takes place. We've already had that discussion. You know, the thing we're waiting on at this point in time before we really start moving forward with how that connectivity works is that ground penetrating radar results.
Dr.
That'll
Glover.
help us to, and he's already started, help us to identify what those potential linkages are. Just a quick FYI on this particular agenda item. It's a design build contract, which is a little different than what you're typically a design bid build. What we're doing here is authorizing the contract to go into pre-construction services, where we will identify what the exact design is and what the exact cost of that design is, and then we'll come back before this body with what we call a change order, even though it's not the appropriate term, that will authorize construction. So you'll get another chance to see what that design actually looks like.
Not only construction, but the cost.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
the costs.
Okay.
Yeah.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion and second, we adopt as presented. Any discussion or questions? All those in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next is a consideration of acceptance of 1.307 acres of real property located at Summerlin Boulevard from the Board of Education of Coweta County. You got this in front of you, fairly straightforward.
Pretty straightforward, other than one little item.
Tell me what that is.
Make it quick. We're very gracious for the school system. We think this is very beneficial. Ms. Lerner's here, and she could probably speak to that and how it could be of benefit to the Lincoln and trail system. But unfortunately, the parking lot never was finished. It's missing the top layer of asphalt, and it's missing a little bit of ADA issues. So I've instructed our staff to do that evaluation, so we're going to have to spend a little money to drive the parking lot up to standard. So I just want to actually bring that to your for your information.
We appreciate that. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Motion and second to accept in its current condition. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Next, under unfinished business, this is a continuation of public hearing, the consideration of an ordinance to amend the Code of Ordinances of the City of Newnan by adopting revisions of Article 1, Chapter 6, Businesses. If you'll recall, the last time, the reason this was continued, this public hearing was continued, Mr. Shell had some questions, and I believe Ms. Shell may have those questions
I
answered.
met with the staff, and I'm satisfied with the ordinance once I really dug in and was explained a couple of items while they're there. And the only thing that I would suggest is we remove the maximum cap on the calculated occupational tax and revise the ordinance, include that agenda where that will be removed. There'll be no cap on the calculated tax.
All right, so this is a public hearing, continued on this issue. Does anyone like to come forward to speak to this issue? Seeing again, no one come forward, I'm gonna close the public hearing at this time and ask for a motion on the issue.
So moved.
I move that we adopt the revised amended ordinance with revisions to the city occupational tax ordinance, deleting the proposed maximum cap on the calculated occupation tax due to the city.
Was that a second?
Second.
Okay, motion and a second, any discussion or question? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried, thank you. This item on the next is a second and final reading, an ordinance to amend the Article 3, excise tax on hotels, motels, Chapter 19, taxation of Code of Ordinances of the City of Newnan, to implement Title 48, Chapter 13, Articles 3, Section 51 of the Official Code of Georgia, and annotated the excise tax on rooms, lodgings, accommodations, and provide for the collection by the operator, to provide for administration, to provide for an effective date and other purposes. This is the second and final reading. I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. We adopt on second and final reading. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. 6-1. Thank you. The next item on the agenda this evening is 18 Berry Avenue, owner update and a request for extension.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and
How are you,
council.
sir?
Just as a quick recap, 18 Berry Avenue was before council back in the summer. In July, it was given 90 days resolution deadline. At that point, Mr. Moten, who was the representative of the estate, had informed council he was going to sell the property. And Mr. Moten is here tonight, and he is going to update council on where that stands right now.
Okay. Evening, if you will state your name for the record, please.
Good evening, council. My name's Daniel Moten. Proud to be here. I know it's been a long time. I do want to thank you guys for your patience on working with us to try to get something done here. The buyer that I have for the property is a gentleman named Dana Freeman. And I think the inspector knows him. He's actually doing 2 properties in the area that he's already purchased and is remodeling currently. And if you haven't been by to look at them, it looks like he's doing a great job. And by restoring those houses, I think he's doing a great service to that neighborhood. And so he's the buyer. He's been very busy. I talked to him recently, and he's been very busy taking care of that load he's got on him doing 2 properties at the same time. But I did let him know that the urgency that we were facing at this point. So, to that end, I just received a purchase contract at 6:30 this evening that I have. He sent it to, I have an email. I haven't had a chance to print it out. So we have gotten that far with it, and it's my. I was expecting him to be here tonight. I thought he was on the agenda, but apparently he was not.
Okay.
So that's where we are right now.
How much of an extension do you think you need on this, Mr. Moten?
And I wish he was here to, to answer that. But since we have a contract at this point, I like to use a month, but, I don't see why it would take more than that. Might want to go 2 just to make sure, because that's the way things have kind of gone. But I know he is a serious buyer. I know he's just kind of.
So you're talking about a month for him to actually close on the property?
I'm saying a month, let's say a month or 2 months, that's what I'm thinking. Again, I was hoping he would be here to give you more details from his perspective, but he was not on the agenda and couldn't make it.
Okay, so once again, just to clarify, for him to actually close on the property, to buy the property from you, and then he would need more time to get the renovation.
Right, to start
complete.
working on the renovations, correct.
To get with her representative on the time schedule there.
Yeah. Council, I'm kind of at a loss here to what to ask for.
I'm not opposed to 4 months. That would give him time to close and get his permits going and all that. Because you know more than I do about how fast he's moving on the other.
He's moving fast. He is also the, individual that's rehabbing or remodeling 6 and 8 Glen Street. And he's got those well underway, and I don't know if you guys have been over there, like Dan said, there's quite a bit of good stuff happening there that's gonna really benefit that street. So it's gonna take him time to do those, and I'm assuming, and I don't know what else he's got lined up, but I do think there'll need to be some significant amount of time for him to be able to.
So.
120
Get on
days.
this.
is
I
that-
think you'll need
That's
three
what I'm
months
saying,
just to do the
120
renovation.
days.
She, Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins is making a motion
Yes,
of
I made a
120
motion for
days.
120 days.
120, I'll second that.
Do you think that, knowing this fellow that's buying it and renovation, does he have enough resources to be able to finish it and to do that?
It's
reasonably?
my opinion he does, yes. I believe he's a serious investor, and he's got the funds to do the project. That's been my impression from him so far, based on what he's doing on Glen Street.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second for 120-day extension on 18 Berry Avenue. Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Ms. Moak.
Thank you, council.
We appreciate it. The next item is 100 Sprayberry Road, owner update and request for extension.
Yes, is Edwin here? I don't think he was going to try to make it tonight. He was before council in August and was given 60 days to finish this property, and he's come a long way with it from where it was just a few months ago. I talked to him last week. He's not quite finished. He's asking for another 30 days, and he felt like he had some issues with scheduling a crew to get back to the project. They're very busy right now, so he had to wait on his crew to get back, but he feels like another 30 days and he can have it wrapped up, so.
So
Live in that area and buy there, and
every
he's
day.
over there working. How much?
I'd say every day I go by.
Yeah. So I'd feel more like 45 days, so he won't have to come back to us with
Yeah,
15
that's-
days worth of work left.
Yeah, 60 days, I mean, whatever you think.
I make that motion.
I would second, yeah.
45 days. Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The
Thank
next
you.
item under visitors this evening, Foundation Christian Church request to use 3 parking spaces on West Washington Street next to the Alamo, 8:30 to 11:30 a.m. to participate with free ice cream truck during the Munchkin Masquerade on Halloween.
Second.
Motion is second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. The next item is Troop Coweta Alumni, chapter of the Delta Sigma Theta sorority, Inc., requests set up table on the North Court Square at 7 a.m., March 28, 2020, for a 5K, which begins at 8 a.m.
So moved.
Motion
Second.
And a second to approve. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. The next is a request to close a portion of South or S York Drive to host a neighborhood block party for the new neighborhood on Saturday, November the 2nd, 2019, from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. We grant the request. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Then next is a request to close a portion of Madison Street between Jefferson and Jackson on Sunday, November the 3rd, 2019, for a craft event at RPM from 2 p.m. to 7 p.m. Is there a motion?
Is it 2 PM or 12 PM?
12 p.m., I'm sorry.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. The next is a request to hold the 2019 Glow Run on Sunday, December the 1st, 2019, at 6 p.m. in Ashley Park area. You're using the same route as in previous years.
So moved.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. I believe you have at your place an announcement from the link on the Halloween. Ms. Kim, would you like a second?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Thank you for letting me speak briefly tonight. I'm Kim Leonard, and I'm the director of the Link. And I'd like to make you aware of an upcoming event we have on the Link this Sunday, October 27th, from 2 o'clock to 4:30. It is Halloween on the Link, free and open to the public. Please bring your pets and their people, too. We have a couple dozen vendors lined up, vendor exhibits. We have a DJ lined up. We will no doubt see Halloween candy giveaways, dog biscuit giveaways, and a lot of photo opportunities. So I hope you'll come, bring your dogs and your families. And thank you so much for making this possible.
Thank you. We appreciate all your efforts. That ends our regular agenda. We did the street closures earlier. Is there someone here who has an item that needs to come before the council that's not on our regular agenda item? Yes, ma'am. If you'll come forward and state your name, please.
Good evening. I'm Kimberly Albertson, and I had spoken at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting last month about the amendment to the zoning ordinance in regards to microblading and permanent makeup and tattoo artistry in Newnan. And tonight, I was instructed that we could come and make a present it to the council to see if it could be recommended to the board for recommendation to amend that amendment that they changed last month. So I'll just start and.
Well, ma'am, Ms. Albertson, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we actually had that as an agenda item under new business. There was a public hearing that I announced on the zoning ordinance, and we had a public hearing earlier. I don't know whether or not you were here, or.
Sir, what she's asking for is she would like tattoo parlors to be considered as a use in some commercial districts, and she would like this board to send that out to Planning Commission for a recommendation. We could, when she came before Planning Commission, what we were looking at is the microblading and the eyeliners and so forth, permanent makeup as an accessory for salons.
Right.
And she is wanting them to be, which went beyond what we advertised, the tattoo parlors to be in a commercial district. So that's what she's asking tonight, is for you all to consider sending that to Planning Commission.
Okay. Is there a motion for us to consider that, send that issue to Planning Commission for their consideration?
Is that?
Yes, that's what
That
we'll.
is exactly what you want?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
We haven't answered it.
I know my answer. I'm asking council if anyone on the council wants to make a motion to send that item to the Planning Commission for their consideration and back to us for our vote.
Could I address the council? It's actually to add the tattoo artistry to nail and hair salons for salon suites only, not just the tattoo studio.
Hearing her addition to what I asked, is there anyone here who would like to make that motion? Okay, sorry, thank you.
Okay.
Is anyone else who would like to make anything off agenda to come before the council? Any council members have anything this evening? Mr. Young?
Nope.
Mr. Kripke?
Nothing.
Ms. Jenkins?
I do. Brought this up several months ago about the cottage zoning requirements, and staff did send out something to us with some suggestions, but we haven't seen it come before council yet. And so I'm requesting that at some point in the very near future, we actually do entertain that.
Need some discussion and some direction. I mean,
Okay.
it's hard for me to draft the proposal without any direction. She simply wanted me to draft exactly what was presented, which was.
No, actually, I'm looking for some input from staff on it. I mean, because what was meant for another community doesn't necessarily.
That's right, so.
Us, so I'm looking for.
I got no feedback, so it was kind of hard for me to take
Okay.
direction on what to provide. I mean,
Can we do
the
that?
appropriate process would be to refer to the planning
Well,
commission
that's
for
good. That's
recommendation.
exactly what I was going to recommend.
That's
So
right.
if that's a motion,
Yes,
Second.
that is my motion.
motion second, will you state your motion?
It is to send the cottage ordinance to the planning commission
There you
for
go.
recommendations
Back to the council.
back to the council.
Okay. Motion second. Questions? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. I don't have anything to see. Is that all you have?
Yep, that's it.
I don't have anything to see. Mr. Shell?
No, sir. No, sir.
Mr. Bose? I understand we have a reason for, or a need for an executive session for real estate. If we'll, Mayor Pro Tem Jenkins will take us into that, please.
Okay. I move that we now enter into closed session as allowed by Official Code of Georgia 50-14-4 and pursuant to advice by the city attorney for the purpose of discussing real estate, and that we in open session adopt a resolution authorizing and directing the mayor or presiding officer to execute an affidavit in compliance with Official Code of Georgia 50-14-4, and that the body ratify the actions of the council taken in closed session and confirm that the subject matters of the closed session were within exceptions permitted by the open meetings law.
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? We are in executive session. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for being here.